So you're here because you want to get right to the heart of things, yeah, to really understand something without getting lost in the weeds.
Exactly. Cut through the noise.
Right. And today we're diving into something pretty universal, really. How we deal with loss, how we find comfort, and, well, how we stay connected to people we've loved who aren't here anymore.
Hmm. It's a big one.
It is. We'll be looking at it through a few different lenses. A Maundy Thursday reflection that talks about Brahms's Requiem and Communion, the story of the Last Supper from Luke's Gospel, and also Psalm 34.
Yeah, on the surface, they might seem, quite different. A piece of classical music, a biblical scene, a psalm.
Right, different genres, different times.
But what's really interesting is how they kind of weave together. They all touch on this core human thing, grief, and that deep need we have for connection, even when someone's gone.
Exactly. Grief hits everyone so differently, doesn't it? And we all kind of fumble around trying to make sense of it, find some peace after losing someone important. So our mission today, if you like, is to see how these different sources, the reflection, Luke 22, Psalm 34, how they speak to that surge, what can they sort of show us about finding connection when things feel heavy?
Looking for those threads that bind them together.
Yeah. So we've got this reflection on Brahms and communion, Luke's story of that famous last meal, and these really quite comforting words from Psalm 34. Okay, where should we start? Maybe with Brahms. What stood out to you from that reflection?
Well, what I found really insightful, and the reflection points this out clearly, is how Brahms's Requiem starts by focusing on the living. It quotes Jesus, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted."
Oh, right. That's different, isn't it? Because usually you think a requiem is all about the person who died.
Exactly. It kind of flips the usual script. Most requiems are prayers for the dead. Brahms seems to turn the spotlight onto the people left behind, the ones grieving.
So is the idea that acknowledging the pain of the mourners is sort of the first step towards finding comfort, maybe for them, and in remembering the person?
That's exactly the angle the reflection explores. It suggests that validating the grief of the living is, well, essential. It's part of the journey towards peace. And then think about how the Requiem ends.
Right.
It ends with, "Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord."
Yeah.
So you get this beautiful symmetry. It starts with the blessedness of mourning and ends with the blessedness of the dead.
Ah, so it connects them. The living and the dead aren't totally separate realms in this view.
Precisely. The reflection argues that the music, the whole piece, bridges that gap. And that's where the connection to communion comes in, you see.
Right. The reflection links this to the Last Supper. Jesus saying he won't eat or drink again like this until the kingdom of God comes. And this is where it gets really fascinating for me. This meal isn't just history, is it? It's painted as like a preview, a link to what the reflection calls the messianic banquet.
Yeah, that future feast in God's kingdom, a
Oh.
symbol of ultimate reunion and joy. Luke really emphasizes Jesus' desire, his need almost, to share that specific Passover meal before everything happened.
He connects that meal directly to the future kingdom. So it's not just looking back.
Not solely, no. It's looking back in remembrance, definitely, but also forward, anticipating this huge gathering that includes everyone who has faith across all time.
And the reflection really picks up on that idea with communion, doesn't it? It mentions those prayers where we join our voices with angels, prophets, apostles, martyrs, and all the faithful of every time and place.
Wow. It creates this feeling of being part of something vast, something timeless.
Yeah, a huge community.
And that's why that story from the Vermont congregation is so incredibly powerful, the one about Utet.
Oh, yes. Tell us that again.
Well, the story goes that during the communion prayer, right when the pastor mentioned joining voices with the faithful across time, Guillette heard the voice of her daughter, Cynthia, who had passed away.
Wow. Just heard her voice joining in.
Apparently so. It's such a personal, moving example of exactly that connection we're talking about. It suggests that maybe those boundaries between life and death aren't always as solid as we think.
It really gives you pause, that story, this shared ritual, taking bread and wine. It can become a space where, like the reflection says, they're just across this table. That veil feels thin.
Very thin.
Okay, so we have Brahms connecting the morning and the blessed dead, the Last Supper, linking the present meal to a future timeless gathering. How does Psalm 34 fit into this picture?
Well, Psalm 34 speaks very directly to that personal search for comfort, for refuge, when things are tough. Verses like, I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. That resonates, right, when you're grieving.
Oh, absolutely. That need for comfort, for answers, for release from fear. And there's that line about the angel of the Lord camping around those who fear him. That's a strong image.
A powerful image of protection, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it invites you. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him.
Taste and see. That echoes communion again, doesn't it? The physical act of tasting.
It does. It's an invitation to experience that goodness, that safety, personally. Not just intellectually understand it, but feel it.
And the promise right after that. Those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. That feels really significant when you're feeling the emptiness of loss.
It suggests that even when someone is missing, there's still a source of sustenance, of comfort, of goodness available. You won't lack what you truly need.
So putting it all together, Brahms focuses on comforting the mourners. The Last Supper points to this timeless connection through shared remembrance and hope. And Psalm 34 offers that individual solace, that promise of refuge and provision.
Yeah, they all seem to converge on this fundamental reality of grief, but also on the enduring possibility of finding connection and comfort within it.
Okay, so let's summarize. We saw Brahms framing mourning and peace for the dead as connected, blessed states. That mirrors how communion liturgy often explicitly links us, the living, with those who've gone before.
Then Luke shows the Last Supper wasn't just a farewell, but really a promise of a future ultimate gathering in God's kingdom encompassing everyone.
And that poignant story about Gidi hearing Cynthia's voice during communion really brings that potential for connection right down to earth, makes it feel real and personal.
So real. And Psalm 34 kind of underpins it all, offering that assurance. Seek this connection, seek refuge, and you'll find deliverance from fear and discover a goodness that sustains you. It's a message of hope threaded through all of them.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away. Think about your own life for a moment. Have there been times maybe sharing a meal or during a quiet moment of remembrance, perhaps listening to music where you felt a connection to someone who's no longer physically here?
Those moments.
What might those moments, those feelings suggest about how love endures, about the possibility of connection beyond what we can physically see? Something to ponder.